Good morning. Welcome to this inside-outside space. The sun is fantastic, the breeze comes in the other end. So today, as you've heard already, we're deep into the season of creation. So let's get down to brass tacks, paper. We're getting used to the idea of the single-issue service booklet containing all our worship materials for this whole season, and consequently saving us about 8 reams of paper and 20 kilograms of carbon dioxide over the month. Sure, there are inconveniences to this system, like not having the readings printed, and I wonder how we are all weighing up the costs and benefits of such an intervention when the value we assign to different courses of action is not measured in the same currency or even the same time frame. Single-use booklets prepared fresh each week offer immediacy, the capacity to print more material, and a stress-free welcome to visitors. And visitors, you are very welcome, and I hope you feel included. On the other hand, committing to a single reusable booklet asks us to take the long view, the global view, and the future view. Resources saved now contribute directly to the well-being of future generations, the very definition of sustainability. Difficult though this is to measure. Plus, I'm thinking David, our parish administrator, must have loads of time freed up to do other stuff. But carbon dioxide and other practicalities aside, I'm interested in how these paper-light circumstances that we're in affect our worship. So I'd like to invite you to an experiment. So I'm going to read the gospel passage you've just heard again, because let's face it, some of us have forgotten what it was already, but with some explicit suggestions for you to consider as you listen without paper in your hands. So to start, please do settle in wherever you are. If you're in the building, that will be your piece of pew, uncomfortable as it is, but home for the next while. If you're online, it's your own places. Where are your eyes drawn to as you listen to a reading? Upwards? Downwards? To the windows and out of this space? Or perhaps they're closed? An important aspect of this Eucharistic liturgy is that it enables us to say things together rather than individually. Are you aware of others around you while you're listening? What's it like to be part of a hybrid community, on-site and online? Listening is a multi-sensory experience, and I know at least one member of this community has synesthetic abilities. What's it like to hear the gospel through, for example, a hand on warm wood, which has its own history, or through the soles of your feet? And for those who are engaging with words visually on paper or screen, what are your other senses up to? And the liturgy leads us to join in the worship offered by all creation. And today the doors are wide open to connect us more closely to that other great sacred book in which we are so fully embedded. How is that for you? Breezes and sounds are with us. The temperature's different. The quality of light is integral to our experience. How do we enable or hinder the worship pouring forth from the rest of creation through our own modes of worship? Okay, so I'm going to do the reading. As Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax booth. "Follow me," he told him, and Matthew got up and followed him. Later, as Jesus was dining at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" On hearing this, Jesus said, "It's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." So now I'm going to suggest that we speak to each other just for 1 minute, literally, and share one thing that you noticed or you learned during that reading, but quietly, remaining in listening mode. And I literally mean 1 minute, because I'm going to ring this after 30 seconds, and that's your call to swap over. Okay? If you choose not to do that, others around you will respect. Off you go. 30 seconds. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, having the doors open also changes our sense of where we are in physical place, where we belong, right here, right now, where we're hearing this gospel. Indigenous Australians call their place of belonging country, with a capital C. Not my country or even our country. Any sense of ownership runs in reverse. People belong to the land, their forever home. Country with a capital C encompasses all the other beings who belong there, living and non-living, as well as history, culture, and spirit. Going on country is ritualised, a journey of welcome, respect, relationship, and learning. This seems far removed from small C country, as we commonly hear it used, especially our country, emphasising that some people are in and some are not welcome, which is patently not how ideas of home work, either ecologically or spiritually, let alone ethically or compassionately. But the Christian tradition has transformational words of belonging too, deriving from Greek oikos, which in the New Testament encompasses a whole range of meaning, including household, family, church, unity, and spiritual home. Taking it even further, this word oikos is the root of the English words ecology, where home includes the whole living and non-living planetary system, and economy, the collective assigning of value within our ecological home. In the reading today, Matthew learned a lesson about oikos when he abandoned his tax collecting booth and followed Jesus, only to find himself back in his own house cooking dinner for all his miserable sinner tax collector colleagues. Maybe he was expecting to be led to some better place, like a Caribbean holiday or something. But no, Jesus just takes him home, where life happens, where he and all the others are accountable, and where real transformation begins. So how can we go about expanding our notions of home and belonging in the service of transformation? Watershed thinking is an expansive way of being at home. You might remember from school geography that a watershed is an area of land where all the water that falls and flows on the land and beneath it, and even as rivers in the air flowing in through our open doors, it all ends up in one place in a watershed, usually where the river meets the ocean. So we're gathered downstream in the Thames Valley watershed, a huge area stretching from near Cirencester, 100 miles that way, through the west door, all the way down to the Thames estuary, about 40 miles that way behind me, with literally hundreds of waterways flowing above and underground, down from the Cotswolds, the Chilterns, the North Downs, all into the Thames. This is the lifeblood of our home. We're all connected in this watershed. A torrential downpour in Reigate in Surrey causes flooding in Trafalgar Square as underground rivers swell. All 15 million of us who live in this watershed drink here daily. And even if we engage in the madness of consuming water shipped from afar in plastic bottles, we still interact with local water in 100 different ways. So within this spacious watershed home, let's zoom into our own patch for a bit, say just Westminster and the City of London. I'm thinking about two distributed lifeblood systems in this patch. One is actual water wells, dozens of them, direct connections to the water flowing through chalk and greensand as far down as 200 metres below us. Water from Woking and Oxford and St Albans. There are 2 wells in Trafalgar Square alone. The other system is churches, 80 or 90 or more of them, depending on how you count them up, in the 2 cities area. And as embarrassingly obvious as it is to say that they are all connected to the same living water, I am saying it because so often we are focused on our differences. This local church system could act systemically to enact watershed thinking, predicated on recharge and renewal across every dimension of our common home, not just water. Each well in the 2 cities is individual, different depth, bore, geological profile, use. Every church, in Walter Wink's words, has its own angel, the spiritual reality or soul of the institution guiding its vocation. Together, we're nodes in a system, not entities complete unto ourselves. So how would we organise for this in our watershed? Thankfully, there's a plethora of vehicles and resources in place. There's EcoChurch, with its holistic programme of change across all our lives together. And there is Christian Climate Action, making a big nuisance of themselves recently, hanging banners on abbeys and cathedrals, and reminding us that direct action is still very much needed. There's the National Church's bold and radical commitment to net zero by 2030. And there is the Westminster Net Zero Forum of 21 churches and counting, of which we're a part, taking on this challenge locally. For example, less than a mile behind me and directly in front of you is St Paul's Covent Garden. Last month, they took up their historic floor and installed a state-of-the-art underfloor heating system, which will cut their fossil fuel use by 50% before carefully relaying every numbered floorboard. Less than a mile directly out of the south door, that way, is Westminster Abbey, involved in blue sky imagining of a district-wide heating system powered by water source heat pumps located on barges on the Thames. 2 miles northish, over the font and beyond, is St Marylebone, St Paul's Marylebone, one of 6 gold eco-churches in the diocese to date, with a superpower that connects and a forensic focus on justice for marginalised communities. And there's brilliant stuff beyond the west doors as well, but you get my drift. This work is systemic. We each have a responsibility to discern our gifts and act in accordance with our angel. Hence, great to have the doors open. What does the angel of St James call us to in this systemic work? Well, you may have heard about this Wren project thing going on, with its firm commitment to net zero. And also more and more of us training in carbon literacy and working on the operational sustainability of the organisation. Another thing is that I now have a role as, it's called grandly, Joint Environment Lead for the 2 cities, working with our diocesan environmental officer. This is not something to be done as an individual, and I do it from here with you, so please do talk to me about it. So what I've tried to do in the last few minutes is to foreground a contemplative, full-bodied, multi-sensory listening and speaking together as central to worship. And then make a case for knowing ourselves as really belonging, here where we are, at home, with all the other sinners and tax collectors. For me, there's a third movement that follows from this, which is the step into prophetic witness. And back to Matthew, who handles this deftly in a single verse. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners. If we pray oikos, home, with every fibre of our beings, then just looking around at the sign of the times surely draws us to step out of our tax collecting booths or fishing boats or church pews and cry mercy. Mercy, says Jesus to the Pharisees, who question his association with Matthew and all the other miserable sinners. Mercy calls River Tyburn, incarcerated underground and turned into a storm drain for its entire length from Oxford Street to the Thames at Vauxhall. Mercy howls the whole Thames Valley watershed, its waterways stagnant and dying under their load of human sewage, its unique chalk streams flooded with agricultural runoff and gasping for breath, its ecosystems exterminated. Mercy, not sacrifice, we demand with Westminster citizens. We belong to this watershed. We will not stand for its poisoning, its value and very life extracted, siphoned off, sacrificed for monetary profit. Mercy for the Niger Delta, home to 30 million people whose average life expectancy is now 40 due to destruction of the Niger River system by fossil fuel companies extracting oil to fuel our energy-intensive lives. And may mercy rain down on Gaza, totally reliant on its underground coastal aquifer, devastated by over-extraction, saltwater intrusion and sewage. So as Joan reminded us 2 weeks ago, there's no room for low-risk, low-maintenance faith here. I have learnt that mercy is not some hand-wringing on our knees kind of action. Mercy is ferocious, and calling it out in church will likely shake the foundations. In the words of Annie Dillard, one of my favourite eco-mystic prophets, does anyone have the foggiest idea what sort of power we blithely invoke in church? We should all be wearing crash helmets. Ushers should issue life preservers and signal flares. They should lash us to our pews. For the sleeping God may wake someday and take offence, or the waking God may draw us to where we can never return. So, my fellow sinners, we who are called, my prayer for all of us is for the presence of a quiet mind, a passionate love for our common home, and the courage of the prophets. Amen.